The story is that Rā, Tamanui Te Rā, had union with Hene Takurua and Hene Raumati. But in some iwis, it was with Hene Raumati. And from that union, they had a child, and that child was Tāne Rore, which you see here. So from Tāne Rore came the shimri, came the quiver. And from the quiver, the wiri, from that came the wiri. And from the wiri, that was the origin of the kapahaka. When we put these together, before we put them together, I had to come up with some kind of storyboard. So we had to look into from the thought of doing something like this, to the drawings, to the concepts, from the concepts to what material was viable for us at that time. And most of the material that we used was sourced from scrap wood. So my thoughts around coming up with these ideas is probably because my attachment to mythology, to legend, all that stuff. I mean, and plus I'm an artist, plus I paint, so this is one of my paintings up there. So I also paint as well. So from that skill, I was able, to do, to draw up the concepts that you see here. So most of the guys that they work in, they work in whakairo. They come in here also to learn about carving, about the patterning, how faces and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's part of doing something new. It's part of checking out what the culture is, what the culture is all about. The whakapapa about wood. You're learning the whakapapa about the stories that are connected to the carvings, and it's just all about taking on another sort of a journey, because some of the boys here have never carved before, so it's a new thing to them, and I think it's very important if we teach them the right way, and tell them, because they're learners, that it's all right to make mistakes, when you first start. That's a part of learning, as we all know. But at the end of the day, it's about reconnecting to your culture. And even if you're Samoan or Tongan or Pākehā or Chinese, you have the opportunity, to come up with a piece, that's related to your own sort of culture and years. And it's not about teaching people. It's also about making sure they're safe, making sure they're working safe. It's about masks, it's about boots, it's about all those little things that people forget. What a lead carver has to look out for. When it comes to his workers. The kai whakairos. So all those little things that people seem to not realise that's what a lead carver has to do. Not just teach them how to carve, but also tell them the stories about what the patterns are, and because they're always inquisitive, they're always curious. So so you have to give them something to build on, to build the understanding, their matauranga. So this wood is made out of macrocapa. Macrocapa is a good wood to carve because it is quite solid. If you're working with that wood, but the only thing with this wood is that it does have a lot of knots, so it is a bit hard on the chisels. So we try not to carve around the knot area. If there's a knotted area, that's pretty much like this on Humi Tiki. We usually leave that area. We usually won't put any sort of patterns on it because the patterns are the knots. Depending on what piece we're working on. So you can see some knots there, and you can see there's some really heavy sort of grain going there. That's the pattern. Sometimes you can look at a wood, sometimes you can read a wood. If you can read wood, then you know that don't put any patterns on that. Why is that? Because your patterns will clash with the patterns, the natural patterns that are already on there. So that's why we left it. So that's why we left it like that.